Hello and welcome to ProjectWise Administrator Fundamentals Accreditation course, Workflow Security. In this lesson, we will learn how to set up workflow security and workflow state security using the ProjectWise Administrator module. And because we are going to set this up in the Administrator module, it is often referred to as global security, since the folder and document permissions will inherit to all the folders which has the same workflow applied. We will look at how the workflow security is being applied and how they will inherit into all the states that belong to the same workflow. We will also look at how we can break the inheritance by applying the security to the workflow states. To apply workflow security, first and foremost, we will need to open the relevant workflow Properties dialog window. Then go to the Folder Security tab. Generally, workflow often applies to documents in the selected folder, so we will be concentrating on the document operations that users are allowed to perform during each state of the workflow. For this Folder Security tab here, we will just leave it as is. This means that if the selected folder has access control defined, the folder permissions will be inherited from there. Let's go to the Document Security tab. Click Add, select Administrator, Managers, and Users. Administrator will have full control over the documents. Managers will have most permissions, including the ability to free his or her team members' documents, but they won't be able to set document permissions. When documents are associated to this workflow, a general guideline would be users should still be able to view the documents or at least know that the documents are listed in the selected folder. As documents pass through each of the workflow states, we will configure the permissions to allow users to work on them or to push through to the next or the previous workflow state. Let's see how we will do this. Double-click on the Work in Progress state. This is the first workflow state that documents are resided in. Let's look at the Document Security tab. These document permissions are inherited from what we set at the workflow level. These needs to be modified slightly. We want designers to be able to work on the documents while they are in work in progress state. So we will go ahead and add designers and make sure that they can edit documents as well as moving documents to the content check state. You may have noticed that since we added designers to the work in progress state, this will break the inheritance and this state will have its own permission moving forward. Double-click on the Content Check state. Let's move on to the Document Security tab. This also inherits from the workflow level since designers is a member of the user list. In this case, we won't need to do anything and designers cannot work on the documents while they are in content check state. We do, however, need checkers to be able to review the documents. So let's go ahead and click Add and choose checkers. Go ahead and click OK. Validate that checkers can move documents to the next state once he or she has finished reviewing the documents. And if documents need to be reworked, then checkers can push the documents back to the previous state. And that is the work in progress state. Again, any modification to the workflow state permissions will break the inheritance from the overall workflow permissions. Let's follow the same train of thoughts and configure the next two states of the workflow as follows. The exercise for this lesson will be setting up the security for the workflow state annotation such that designers can work on the documents and then can move them to the next state. Once documents have reached the annotation check state, we want to set up the security so that checkers can move the documents to the next state or push the documents back to the previous state, as well as designers can only view the documents. Once documents have reached the approved state, it is time to release and publish these documents to external users for viewing. So far, the documents, regardless of which state they are in, it is available to internal users only. We will need to add external users and set the documents to read and file read. Since this workflow and workflow state security were applied in the ProjectWise Administrator module, it will inherit into any of the ProjectWise folder that has the workflow assigned. So let's look at the D Design Files folder in the BSI 400 work area. When the documents are in work in progress state, designers can work on the documents and move to the next state. When documents reach the content check state, notice that only checkers can move the documents to the next or the previous state. Even though designers are not listed here, but they are a member of the user list. And so designers can only view the documents while they are in content check state. Finally, once documents are approved, it will then be released to the external users for viewing. Similarly, the BSI 300 work area, the documents in the plan sheets folder, when documents are in work in progress state, designers can work on the documents. When documents are in content check state, checkers can move the document to the previous state or the next state. And finally, when documents are in approved state, external users will have a chance to view the documents. So as we can see, it doesn't matter which folder we are in. As long as the workflow has been applied to the folder, we will be able to see the workflow security that we configure in the administrator module. During this lesson, we have learned setting up workflow security as well as workflow state security using the ProjectWise administrator module. We also learned how the workflow security inherits into the workflow state security. We also learned how setting up the workflow state security will break the inheritance from its workflow.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with others. If you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing to this and Bentley's other channels. Thank you, and see you next time.